come to you this evening gathered as a people. Father, we give you thanks for the freedom that we enjoy in this country. Thank you for allowing us to be citizens here and enjoy those freedoms. Father, we ask that you be especially present with our military personnel as well as our local first responders in the tasks that they face on a daily basis. And Father, this evening as we conduct our business, may our actions reflect your teachings in the way that you have taught us. And all of these things we ask in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Board Member Hodges.
Here.
Board Member Henson.
Here.
Board Member Fendig.
Here.
Board Member Blue.
Here.
Board Member Morris.
Here.
Board Member Valenta.
Here.
And Chair Erickson.
Here. Tabs A through C are legislative hearings. County Attorney, please read the procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These procedures are in place to give all who wish to speak for or against an item the opportunity to do so. Those persons wishing to speak in favor of or against the item being considered shall have 3 minutes to address the board. All statements should be addressed to the board and address only the item under consideration. Speakers should not engage in personal attacks on other speakers, staff, or board members. Personal attacks or loud boisterous comments at the podium or from the audience are not relevant. Anyone who violates the rules will be asked to stop, and failure to do so may result in removal from the chambers. Speakers must begin by stating their name and address for the record. Speakers shall not repeat or restate the same information as a previous speaker. Anyone presenting repetitious statements or statements that do not address the item under consideration will be directed to stop their presentation and address only non-repetitive matters. Sharing or transferring of time is not allowed. The clerk will control the time allocated, which is again 3 minutes. Any speaker that has documents as part of their presentation should present them to the clerk, and they will become part of the record. The meeting is being recorded, and there can be no applause or outbursts or talking, as it will distort the recording. The board will then close the public hearing and will discuss the item under consideration. They may ask questions of the speakers or staff. The board will then deliberate and vote on the item. And that concludes the procedures, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. The floor is now open for public discussion for tab A. We'll begin with staff presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Kaylin Thompson with the Planning Department. So tonight's request is to consider an amendment to the future land use map of approximately 3.99 acres from agriculture to timber to commercial. The owner is Palmeray Oil, Inc. The agent is Avid Group, and it's in Commission District 4. Sorry, make sure this is working. Okay, so this is a location map. The parcel is located along SR 200. The current zoning is commercial general, and the land use is currently agricultural, but it's proposed to go from agricultural to commercial. And this is the overall vicinity of the area. It looks like there's a kind of timberland parcel back here, and then there are adjacent residences. So in terms of consistency with the comprehensive plan, this amendment would be consistent with future land use policy FL.01.02C. So the requested comprehensive plan amendment to commercial will create compatibility with the existing commercial general zoning designation, and development on the subject parcel will comply with appropriate setback and floor area ratio requirements as set forth in policy FL.01.02C of the comprehensive plan. This proposed amendment is also consistent with future land use policy FL.01.04. So the proposed future land use amendment would not promote low intensity, low density, or single use developments. This amendment is primarily to clean up the inconsistency between the zoning and between the land use. So the current zoning allows the property to be used for commercial uses, and so the Flume amendment would create cohesion between the subject parcel zoning and surrounding uses as well. This is also consistent with criteria 11. The proposed amendment promotes a functional mix of uses. So the surrounding area is predominantly single-family residential and agricultural. So providing a node of commercial activity to this area would encourage the functional mix of uses. This is also consistent with criteria B. So the subject property is zoned commercial general and is contiguous to other properties that are zoned commercial general. And it's also in close proximity to a property with a commercial future land use designation. And further east are multiple plant developments in addition to the Timber to Tides development overlay. And those are served by public infrastructure. So for conclusion and recommendation, staff finds that the requested amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the adopted criteria for approval of a Flume amendment and policy FL.01.02C and policy FL.01.04A through G as the criteria are met. So based on these findings, staff recommends approval of application CPA 26-011.
Thank you. Okay, we will now call to the podium those who have completed a public comment card to speak on tab A, and I believe I just have one, and that's Nancy Roselle.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Nancy Roselle. I live at 451-563 State Road 200, Callahan. I'm directly east of this particular property. We moved out there in 2001. There was a palm tree company there. I think unfortunately when the housing market crashed, and prior to that, they were having very little business. It was very quiet. There were maybe a couple of people that worked there, tended to the plants. And then it remained empty for the last 15 years, maybe. There was a gentleman who purchased the property. He would come and go from there various times, Mr. Robert. I forgot his last name. I don't have it right in front of me. We came a year or two ago, not Groundworks. They were the original owners. Beautiful Blooms petitioned to change it from agriculture to commercial. It was going to be a warehouse nursery type setup, not really a showroom place, but more storage for their inventory for another office in Jacksonville or wherever they are. When I heard about this proposed change again, originally when I moved there, I petitioned and requested for agriculture. As the property was agriculture, our house sits back, and on the photo that shows the vicinity map, that shows my house. We have about 11 acres there. It's a big football field shape. There are several underlying properties that have commercial underlay in the front. And there's 5 or 6 of those properties that are residential. There's been one allowed to reopen that's directly east of us. That happened in 2020 during COVID. I have some points on the office's staff report that just kind of highlight some of the problems with a number of the items that they worked through along with the application. I mean, they basically say the same thing. But where there's commercial out there, there's one commercial building now. The other commercial properties have had houses on them ever since I've been out there. I had strong objection for that property to go from ag back to commercial with beautiful blooms. But once I understood it was gonna be a low traffic flow, then I didn't really have a lot to complain about. But looking at the plans of what Paul Murray Oil wants to do, the amount of traffic that's gonna go in there, the amount of parking, the disturbance of the wet area, which we're very low out there. It's very wet. I have concerns about that. There's only one other neighbor within 300 feet, and they're opposed to it. They couldn't make it to the meeting tonight. I just got a text from them. But I would like you to reconsider. For the plans, what they want to do for 4 acres is just going to be very dangerous. They don't really even maintain the ditches that are between our properties right now. I don't mean between, in front of, along State Road 200. It's a mess out there. So I just have a lot of concerns. And I think what they're going to do is going to harm the area. I think there'll be car accidents. It's not designed in an area for bicycles, pedestrians, foot traffic. They talk about in their application. So I just want it on record that we don't want to have it. So we hope you take those into consideration.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody else from the public that would like to speak? I only have this one comment card, but I don't want anyone to be left out for tab A. Okay. Do we have any board questions for staff and members of the audience? Board is now closed for public discussion on tab A. Do we have any further board deliberation?
No, Chair.
No.
I will entertain a motion to approve or deny tab A.
Mr. Chair, based upon the record evidence and testimony received, I find the plan amendment is consistent with policy FL.01.02C and policy FL.01.04A through G of the Nassau County Comprehensive Plan, and therefore my motion is to recommend approval of CPA 26-011.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion passes. Floor is now open for discussion on tab B. We'll begin with staff presentation. Yes,
All right, my apologies.
that's all right.
I missed that back there. So, okay, I'll give the staff presentation for tab B. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you to our board that, is serving the public and hearing these cases, and then thank you to the public that it's also come out. I'm Adam Olson, I'm senior planner with the planning department, and I can give staff presentation for tab B, where we are considering LDC 26-009, which is a revision to the land development code. And this request is really a minor revision. It's a very small change in the code. We're only proposing to amend two definitions, which are in LDC Article 32, so that's the section of the code with the definitions throughout the code. We're proposing to amend the definition for a townhouse dwelling as well as a two-family dwelling, also known as a duplex, but in the definitions, they're called a two-family dwelling. So we're proposing amendments to those two definitions. And the purpose is to clarify the difference between a townhouse and a duplex as a reference in the LDC, to clarify that a townhouse dwelling may consist of a minimum of 2 dwelling units and not 3 dwelling units, and also to clarify that a two-family dwelling, i.e. a duplex, must be located on a single parcel and not on a separate parcel. There's an ordinance proposed that's attached with this amendment. Hopefully you saw that in the package, but you would see the changes we're proposing to these definitions. And so really this is, it's not changing any of the zoning districts and, what's allowed as far as like where duplexes and townhouses are allowed or anything. All that will stay the same. This is just to clarify that, duplex must be on a single lot and not on separate lots, which there's been a little confusion in the past, as well as for townhouses, it could be a building consisting of only 2 units and not a minimum of 3 units. So it's just clarifying our code. We find that this request is consistent with the county's comprehensive plan, including policies FL.10.05 and Objective H.07. So in conclusion, this amendment is in conformance with the Florida statutes and the goals and objectives and policies of the comprehensive plan, and it would not conflict with the Land Development Code, Code of Ordinances, or other county regulations. Therefore, staff recommends approval of Ordinance 2026-048. That concludes the presentation. If you have any questions,
Thank you.
I'm happy to provide.
I have no public comment cards to speak on tab B. Do we have any board questions for staff?
All right, thank you.
Floor is closed for public discussion on tab B. Do we have any further board deliberation? I will entertain a motion to approve or deny tab B.
Mr. Chair, based upon the record, evidence, and testimony received, I find that this amendment is consistent with the Nassau County Comprehensive Plan Policy FL.10.05 and Objective H.07, Florida statutes, and Nassau County Land Development Code, and therefore my motion is to recommend approval of LDC 26-009, Ordinance 2026-048.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion passes. Floor is now open for public discussion on tab C, and we'll begin with staff presentation.
Good evening, board members. Will Ryder, Planning Department. This is a request to amend the future land use map of one parcel totaling approximately 0.2 acres from commercial to high-density residential. The owner is Colin Smith. You can see on the location map, we have First Coast Highway on Lewis Street here. This site is located approximately 0.202 miles east of the First Coast Highway Lewis Street intersection. And a closer look, if that is indeed closer, you can see that the property is currently vacant. This is an incompatibility between the future land use map and the current zoning. The future land use map is designated commercial, and you can see here the property depicted and outlined in red. The zoning is residential, single family to American Beach. Basically what that means is this zoning district allows single family houses. The request has nothing to do with this, other than this is the request to change this to high-density residential to allow for the construction of a single-family house. That's the only thing that could be developed on this property, given the acreage, given the lot size being a small lot at 0.28 acres. This property is undevelopable as is. Now, there are a number of single-family houses here on the north side of Lewis Street with the same issue. They have the land use designation of commercial and the single-family zoning, but these are considered legal non-conforming. They can continue to operate as houses. The reason this one needs to be changed is because there's nothing that can be done with the property. And as far as the compatibility with the land use designation of high-density residential. Everything that you see depicted, you can develop at 3 units per acre at 0.28, 3 times 0.28 is 0.84, so you can do one house. So either way you look at it with the zone, the lot is not large enough to subdivide into 2 lots. The only thing that can be done here is one single-family house. And you can see everything here in this yellow color on both sides, over here on the left, this brown color, this is high-density residential, so this all probably actually should be high-density residential, so this is consistent with the land use designation across the street. Consistency with the comprehensive plan. I've talked a lot about this already, going through the maps. This is discouraging urban sprawl. This is situated in a single-family neighborhood zoned for residential development. This allows for the development of a single-family house. Once you get into building permits, if that time ever comes, they'll have to meet all the requirements of the RS2AB district. It's an infill opportunity enabling the development of a vacant lot in a developed area that's developed with the same exact use. It provides, it's consistent with the population growth, with the growth trends report, and allowing one more housing option out there for someone to have a place to live. Existing adequate infrastructure, specific traffic impacts, operational improvements to address the site plan review, but really all that's required here would be a driveway into a lot that's a lot of record. Items E and F refer to larger developments like PUDs, which this is not. Any environmental impacts, this is the same type of use as what you see on both sides of Lewis Street. And any future improvements to the development of the site will be reviewed at the time of site plan submittal to ensure drainage and stormwater requirements are met. Staff finds that this is consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the comprehensive plan, we recommend approval.
Thank you, Will. And actually, before, I've got a handful of folks that would like to speak on this one. I just want to clarify that, that I understand it correctly. So if it passes, then they can't do a duplex or a triplex, it's just a single family.
That's correct.
And what about their height restrictions?
Their height restrictions is 35 feet.
35 on that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
But yeah, it would have to meet, just so, since you brought up that question, I'll go ahead and say that, the minimum lot area is 5,000 square feet. It meets that. It's about a 12,000, just north of 12,000 square foot lot. The setbacks would be 15 in the front, 5 on the sides, 10 in the rear. It would have to meet all of those requirements like any other house on the street, if they actually meet the requirements. A lot of these are older homes, have been there for a long time, but it would have to conform to all the requirements of the zoning code. But yes, it is a single-family zone. High-density residential may sound kind of intense and scary. High-density residential allows development at 3 dwelling units per acre minimum, or 10 max. 3 times 0.28 times 0.28 is 0.84. So there's a possibility of getting one house here, and the zoning doesn't allow for 2-family or duplexes or multifamily or commercial or industrial. It's a single-family zoning district that allows single-family. That's all that could be built here.
And if they-
Unless there was some massive consolidation of property or something that happened where everybody sold out their houses and that sort of thing, but that's what, and then there'd have to be another rezoning and all that kind of stuff, so that's what you can do here as a single-family house.
I just want to make sure I was clear before we heard the comments.
Yes,
Thank you
sir.
very much. Okay, we will now call to the podium those who have completed a public comment card to speak on tab C, and we'll begin with Ms. Kathy Carswell.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Kathy Carswell. I'm a property owner at 1519 Lewis Street, Fernandina Beach, Florida, 32034. And I'm here to voice my concerns against amending Article 32 of the Nassau County Land Development Code, Nassau County Comprehensive Plan, in particular policy FL.10.05 and objective H.07. The American Beach community is mapped along the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor. This corridor is a national heritage area, and it was established by the U.S. Congress to recognize the unique culture of the Gullah Geechee people who have traditionally resided in the coastal areas and the sea islands of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, specifically Duval, Nassau, St. Johns County, and near St. Augustine, Florida, and 35 miles inland. This cultural heritage designation for the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor is significant and important because the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor serves to protect the culture of the region shaped by captive Africans brought to the United States. The American Beach community is a true representation of that heritage corridor designation. So tonight, there are 2 points I want to stress to the commissioners in hopes that they would, with thoughtful consideration, would vote against this amendment for the betterment of our American Beach community tonight and to the near future. For we are a people and a community who embraces our own self-determination and our own self-resilience. Point 1, binding coastal resilience standards. The 2050 plan incorporates state-mandated peril of flood and coastal management policies. The 2050 comprehensive plan contains strict data-backed policies on evacuation routes, sea level rise protection, and infrastructure caps. If the county ignores its own plan and grants a high-density rezoning that worsens flooding, the county faces immediate lawsuits from state agencies, conservation groups, and surrounding homeowners for failing to uphold its adopted law. Point 2, given the community legal veto power, the 2050 plan provides the neighborhood with explicit legal standing because the plan explicitly aims to preserve the unique heritage and scale of communities like American Beach. Residents do not have to argue general opinions at public hearings. Instead, citizens can read specific policy numbers from the 2050 plan out loud into the official record. For example,
All right,
policy,
Ms. Carswell, I'm gonna have to give you about 30 more seconds.
Okay, that's fine.
We've got a lot of people that
I
need to
got
talk.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
Policy FL.02.06, American Beach overlay restrictions, and policy CM.03.01, parallel flood infrastructure caps. If the county votes in favor of the developer anyway, the neighborhood can use those exact plan violations to sue and strike down the zoning change in a Florida court. Ultimately, the 2050 comprehensive plan does not stop developers from asking for changes, but it prevents the county from handing out arbitrary zoning favors, ensuring that any proposal must bend to the American Beach community. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we'll now call Pam Buncombe, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Pam McCorkle Buncombe. I am a property owner and resident at Historic American Beach. I also emailed a letter to the planning department and to this committee's chair and our representative from District 2. Hopefully you all received those letters, and I'd like that particular email to be submitted into the meeting minutes as well, to be part of the public record. My concern tonight about the action to be taken on this lot at Historic American Beach is that we had, by representation of our community tonight, there were more questions than answers. And this is a historic community, but it's also consistent action, we feel, that's taken in how our community is treated when it comes to this particular zoning activity. This is a third planning director for me, and I've lived here only 6 years. And in that time period, many things were brought to my attention about the zoning and how it is different depending on what you're talking about. If you're talking about the future land use map, it could be one thing. If you're talking about just regular zoning, it could be different. The last person that really broke this down for me was the interim director, Holly Coyle. And the information she presented was very clear that this has been something that is ignored by whether it's the planning and zoning board or if it's the county in general. We need to have someone come and there was just the diagram that the presenter shared with you tonight. There's several properties that are not in line with the future land use map. And whenever there is a change, particularly an amendment to change something that could affect the whole community, then it causes concern amongst the residents and property owners. My request tonight is to put a pause on this because there are way too many questions that have not been answered, and simultaneously for this board or the planning department to look at our community, bring properties in line so that we don't have this issue going forward, because it causes concern for us as residents. If it is a future land use map, what does that future look like? If you can willy-nilly change commercial property to residential, residential to commercial, that has happened since I've lived there. And it sets a precedence. Anybody could come in now. We've had a flurry of activity now that we have water and sewer. Developers and property managers and people are coming in there, and we're getting calls and emails all the time about wanting to sell our property. People are interested in American Beach. All of it is not good. So we're asking this board to speak to the county or to do something so that we can get our properties in line with what that future land use map looks like and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. So that is my request tonight, to put a pause on this until we get a clear picture of where this community needs to go and put everything in line. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Buncombe, just to clarify just to clarify, you asked that your email be included in the minutes for the meeting.
Yes.
The minutes are prepared by the clerk, and it's a summary of the actions taken. Your email will be included in the record, but not necessarily included in the minutes. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was included in all the statements that are made here tonight. Thank
Yes,
you.
absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, we're now going to call Glenda Jenkins.
Good evening, Glenda Simmons Jenkins, 96091 LS Morrison Drive. I'm not a resident of American Beach. I am Gullah Geechee. I just have a few questions, and I hope I can get them answered tonight, but if not, I'll follow up with an email, hoping to get answers. Is there any other option for someone who wants to use that lot to get that opportunity without doing a flume change? There was stated that there are residents who are legally non-conforming. I guess that means that they have vested rights to do what they wish on the property. However, if something were to happen to their property, if it were sold or if it were otherwise damaged, would they have to build according to the future land use map, or could they retain their vested rights? The other question I have is, how did a historically and culturally single-family community get a future land use of commercial? Everybody knows American Beach has been a community of residents since 1935 with some commercial near the waterfront. So where did this commercial designation on Lewis Street come from? Also, and this may have been answered earlier, but what is allowed in high-density residential? I think there was a conversation about only a certain thing can be built now, but if there was a conglomeration of purchases, then that might lead to even more intense development. And then lastly, is any consideration given to history and culture in staff's evaluation of an application? Because if the future land use map is commercial, then that means it is inconsistent not only with what is there now, but what the residents hope will be there in the future. Those are my questions. Thank you.
And ma'am, what I'm gonna do is, after we go through the rest of these, I'm gonna have Mr. Ryder come back up and answer a lot of those things.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'd like to call up David Solomon.
To the chair, board members, David Solomon. I live in Sebring, Florida, but I own property next to this at 1527. I think Mr. Williams, I think is his name, I think he answered all of my questions, and I appreciate it. I just wanted to rescind that. I don't need to comment.
All right,
Thanks a
sir.
lot.
All right, last but not least, I have one more, and that's gonna be Mr. Wilson from the Wilson family.
Good evening.
Evening,
How's everybody doing?
doing good.
Good. I have a prepared statement. My name is Winifred Wilson. I respectfully ask that the commission deny this rezoning request. American Beach is not just another neighborhood in Nassau County. It is a historic community founded in 1935 by A.L. Lewis as a place where African Americans could enjoy Florida coastline during segregation. It is a community with a unique cultural heritage and a rich history that should be protected and preserved for future generations. The character of American Beach has always been defined by its residential nature, its natural beauty, and its historical significance. Increasing the allowable density of development threatens to fundamentally alter the character that makes this community special. Once that character is lost, it cannot be restored. Many residents chose to invest in American Beach because of its low-density residential environment. The existing zoning reflects the scale and character of the community. A change of density residential would open the door to development that is inconsistent with the surrounding neighborhood and could permanently change the appearance and feel of the historic area. There's also practical concerns that deserve consideration. Our roads and infrastructure already experience significant pressure during peak tourism season. A special event throughout Amelia Island, increased residential density will inevitably increase traffic on local roads, create additional demands on public service, and place future strain on infrastructure that was not originally designed for high density. Environmental impacts must also be considered. American Beach is located in a sensitive coastal environment that includes wetlands, dunes, and natural habitats that help protect the shoreline and support local wildlife. Increased density means increased stormwater runoff, greater demands on utilities, and additional environmental pressure on the fragile coastal ecosystem that's already vulnerable to erosion, flooding, and severe weather events. Most importantly, the commission has an opportunity and a responsibility to preserve one of Nassau County's most important historic communities. Growth is inevitable, but growth should be thoughtful, responsible, and compatible with the existing community. Not every parcel of land is appropriate for increased density, simply because development pressure exists. I have a lot more, but I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say. I think American Beach is unique. I think American Beach harkens back to old Florida. You know, a lot of us, younger folks, don't remember old Florida, but I think American Beach is not only unique in Nassau County, but it's unique to Florida in general. And this is how old Florida used to be. I had a friend come back from college, and he said he's just never seen a place like American Beach. And if you change it, you won't see it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else who would like to speak on tab C before we go further? I'm gonna kind of go a little bit out of line. Will, can I call you back up and maybe address some of the questions that were brought up? I think especially from Ms. Jenkins.
Okay.
And through the chair, before he starts, do we need to hold our comments to board discussion?
I want to. I want to let him answer their questions and
Okay.
then, because I've got one more, probably a legal question that I need to ask.
Okay, I think I was able to, I've gotten a few of them jotted down here, so, and if you think of any that I've missed, then just let me know, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. In regards to, are there any other options without a future land use map change? I suppose the applicant, private property rights, he owns the property. I suppose if he wanted to develop the property commercially, he could try to change the zoning. Could I get the map back, please, if you don't mind? I've got it on the right slide, just, we have the inconsistency here. It seems to make more sense to take this to a residential designation to allow for a house, which is in character with the community. Now, the applicant could, and he hasn't, request to change the zoning to a commercial neighborhood or a commercial general type, a commercial use to try to develop the property commercially, but that seems to be completely out of character with this portion of the neighborhood. Or the other option is to simply do nothing and the property sit vacant. As far as the history on why this is commercial on the future land use map, I don't know, other than it looks like there's, if you go further west over here, you get into some more industrial and commercial type of uses. Perhaps when the future land use was made years ago, they saw that this would be one big commercial node eventually, which wouldn't take in these houses into account. So it seems like the request to take it to residential would be more in character than what the future land use map, and more sensitive to the area than what the future land use map may have been calling for. But as far as specifically how that happened, that predates everybody in this room, I would imagine. So I can't tell you why it's commercial, other than it appears that they envision this area maybe between Julia Street and Lewis Street, First Coast Highway and Mary Avenue to be one big commercial hub, which again, doesn't take in to account or is fairly, really sensitive to the houses that are already there in the neighborhood. So I think as far as, I think that addresses the questions as far as what can be done here. There's nothing that can be done here other than leave it alone. It develops single family, or it could develop commercially, in which case we'd be amending the zoning instead of the future land use map.
And commercial would be something that would be a lot more intense because it would probably have 0 lot lines they could build from lot. I mean, is that accurate?
I'd have to check there are setbacks on the side yard setbacks and stuff on commercial property, but it would, yeah, it would be, it's more intense. It's, that size of lot, I mean, you're gonna basically, the encroachment towards, when you say encroachment, makes you sound like you're crossing, but going further towards the side yards, would be about the same as far as that's concerned. But yeah, I mean, I think that, again, the request seems to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the existing uses out here in this area. One other thing, while we're talking about the comprehensive plan, which the future land use map is a part of the comprehensive plan, but I tried to reiterate this in my presentation about high-density residential in the last gentleman's, and it's a good point. I mean, you hear high-density residential, you have a single-family neighborhood that raises concerns, and I certainly understand the concern of the last gentleman that spoke. High-density residential means you can develop at a minimum of 3 units per acre or 10 units per acre. This property is 0.28 acres. 3 times 0.28 is 0.84. They cannot build more than one house on this property. So if all of this were done correct, my suggestion for another comment that was made is, how would we get all of this to not be non-conforming, to be legal, or it is legal, non-conforming, but how could it all match up? This really should be high-density residential instead of commercial. So staff's opinion is that this request is taking it one step closer to where that community should be as far as it's the zoning and the land use. And again, the south side of the street over here, we're back on the future land use map on this side, you can see that these houses are high-density residential. This request would change this lot to this color here, and this area over here is high-density residential. It seems very clear to me that this was thought to be some sort of commercial hub, which is an appropriate land use pattern. You have commercial and it goes back further into the residential. It's just the way that it actually developed. It was probably developed this way before the future land use map was created, is the commercials out in here and it stops right about here and the neighborhood starts. So we believe it's the appropriate request consistent with the comprehensive plan, most sensitive to the neighborhood, the least intense. If the zoning were to change, then there could be some type of commercial development that's built there. So this seems to be consistent with the existing neighborhood.
All right, thank you very much. That clears up for me a little bit more. Do we have board questions for staff?
Yes. Well, can you explain why you're recommending it be called high-density residential instead of low-density residential?
It's in one sense, it's a moot point because high density, low density, whether it's low density, medium density, high density, the acreage only allows the construction. The policy of the future land use map at 3 units per acre would only allow the creation of one house.
So why not just call it low density?
Well, the other thing is the zoning district allows it, the zoning district only allows single family.
Right. So why not call it low density?
The third thing I would say is because in planning, you don't want to get into, I don't know if spot fluming is a great example or is actually a term like spot zoning. But if you look at this is all high-density residential.
Even
And
though
those
they're
are
one-
single-family houses.
Okay.
And with the calculation, so it's more consistent with the surrounding land use designations. And with the mathematics of it allowing 3 units per acre at that density of 0.28, it allows a single-family house to be constructed.
So it's being consistent with the other lots
With the other
around
lots,
it.
with the other lots in the neighborhood, everything from here, on the south side of Lewis Street up, and north across Lewis with Mary Avenue. So high-density residential, there is no low-density residential or medium-density residential here. And again, I get that point. I debated that one internally myself, and when preparing the staff report of why not LDR, but with the density calculation at 0.3, at 3 units per acre, this would allow the construction of a house, and it's consistent with what's already there.
Right, it just makes the antenna go up, high density, but it's actually consistent with all the neighbors
With
around it.
everything else out here, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Question through the chair, if I could. Kind of piggybacking on that, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, high density, I'm sitting here thinking the same thing in the audience, that, okay, let me throw up a duplex. I understand restrictions. However, you know, what is not being said is that through acquisition of property, it could open the door to a high-density residential situation. Is
That's
that a
true.
correct statement?
No, yeah, and I believe if you went back and listened, I mentioned that possibility, and when I presented that the only way this could be done something different is if this became part of more property.
A
If
bigger
these-
property.
Yeah, if these property owners wanted to sell out to somebody developing the property, or this area right here, that ceased to be the parking for the Ritz, I believe, and it became, these are all speculative, but if this became attached or became a part of a larger lot, then yeah, density could go up. But that possibility exists right now, because everything here is high-density residential.
Right.
But it would require the voluntary selling of a property owner to a developer or some party that would be interested in developing the property, and they would have to, these property owners here adjacent would have to sell to one person to consolidate the lots, or one entity or one corporation to do that. And that would be something that the members of that neighborhood that own those pieces of property would do of their own volition.
Right, no, that's a really good point. Kind of as an opposite angle of that question, if I own property on Mary Street, which I almost bought one time, would love to live there. How would I, as part of this community, change the designations so that an acquisition would not create a 100-unit condo complex?
And just to clarify, if I can, through the
Yeah.
chair, this is RS2 AB zoning, so it's residential single-family, which
Okay.
only permits single-family. A rezoning would have to be made, a request to a PUD or some.
So that
that's the
could
only-
not happen.
Correct, yes,
No.
sir. It would only be single-family.
That's an important point. I hope everybody hears that.
Yeah, and that was reiterated time and again in the staff presentation, that this is single-family zoning. And I think you mentioned a duplex or a two-family structure during your question, which is a great question. But as I stated in my presentation, the only use that's permitted here is single-family, whether it's high-density residential, medium-density residential, low-density residential. Single-family is the only thing that is permitted on this particular lot. And the high-density residential just happens to be consistent with what's currently on the other side of the street.
So all of, the only way that some of the concerns we've heard tonight can happen is through voluntary selling, acquisition of property. And then we're still subject to,
Yes, sir.
as Ms. Bach said, single family.
Yes, either voluntary selling of property, or that property owner deciding, hey, I want to do something different, and coming in and requesting to rezone their property. And depending, if we're talking about the whole area here on the south side of Lewis Street, you might have to change both north side, you'd certainly have to change the zoning. You know, there's nothing to stop a property owner from requesting that. Whether it would be supported by staff is another thing, but yeah, the more likely situation is that you would have, it would, and I don't, likely, whatever, it would be the voluntary
Yeah.
selling of property.
So my
yeah.
last question would be, this particular piece of property, if we do nothing, then we're depriving the owner of the rights to develop that property according to the law.
No, they can't build a house, it just stays like it is.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
and then that's where, do we open ourselves up to a Bert Harris claim? If we don't.
So I don't necessarily want to opine on that.
It's hypothetical, but.
Yes, but that's always a concern when suddenly a property is basically no longer usable.
Based on a vote that we made, right?
And I think the big question that's usually at the forefront of anything application that comes before a plan and zoning board and later the commission is this request an appropriate use of the land? Is this an appropriate use of the property?
And like you
Staff
said, based
believe
on
it
everything around it, it's the same.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, I don't know if a house will ever be built, but that's, per the zoning, that's what can be built, single family house. Yes, sir.
Do we have any other questions?
Basically, tonight, we're not talking about the rest of the environment around this lot. We're talking specifically about this lot and what it is zoned today and what it is requested to be zoned.
This is a legislative hearing, so it's an amendment to the future land use map. We are indeed talking specifically about this piece of property, but part of what you examine and its consistency with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map is surrounding land uses, its consistency with the surrounding land uses, and what that designation allows, would later allow use-wise later when if there was, so looking at the surrounding properties is not something that's off limits in this hearing. You get to a rezoning, then you really are looking at, hey, this specific piece of property, is this, you're in a quasi judicial, hearing at that point. But yes, you're correct, it's this specific piece of property, but part of the criteria is the compatibility of the surrounding land uses and the surrounding land use designations, which are all high-density residential on this side of the street and over here, and really a mismatch with what's out there on the ground when you go out there and look as far as the zoning goes. So, and having said that, I think that's that's a big part of why that compatibility, that consistency with the surrounding land uses are there, of why we're recommending approval.
I guess the follow-up question or statement, I'm very respective of the Gullah Geechee corridor. And this may be a question for the attorney or whomever. What we're doing tonight has no negative impact on that philosophy and corridor. Is that correct or not?
Well, I can't speak to what one might consider to be like a negative impact. Everybody feels things in a different way, and how they view it, what they believe is negative, what they believe is adverse, or what they believe is good. So my charge as a staff member for the county is to examine each case and see if it's compatible and consistent with the code. So I would never venture to say whether I felt like it would have no negative impact on how someone would view their culture, if that makes sense.
Thank you. If it's permissible through the chair, can I ask Ms. Jenkins to come back up, since we're still in public discussion? Did I?
Thank you so much.
Our effort was to try to answer some specific questions. You heard our questions.
I really
So-
appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Ryder, for answering. I learned a lot, and I think it's very helpful. Respectfully, I would say that one of the questions that didn't get answered was about consideration given to history and culture. But I would also add that I understand that what is being done today is to apply whether the law that the gentleman or that the owner is asking for, the change, if that is consistent with the current law. I do understand that.
Okay.
The issue that I have as a Gullah Geechee person is that I'm wondering if the planning department and if the county in general understands how inconsiderate it is to people who have lived in that community for this long to have a future land use map that is designating a node as commercial while you're still there. It's basically saying, you all are going to be gone. And the trend that we favor is a commercial trend. That is inconsiderate of the culture of the people. And that's why I'm asking if any consideration is given, not just to what the law currently says, but we as a community should be saying, this future land use designation is wrong. It should not be designated as commercial in the future when you've got residential single family already there. And to your other point, and I'll end with this, when you say that high-intensity residential is better than allowing the gentleman to develop commercial, that is only so if no one around caves to the pressure that happens when someone gets a change in zoning. We're not addressing the fact that tax base and all of those kinds of things follow what you have on a map. You cannot draw a line and say, this is future commercial, give someone a different zoning, and think that it's not gonna have reverberation effect to the property owners all around. So I understand that what is being done and asked for today is being isolated in this moment. But please understand that the implications beyond today, when this change happens, is far beyond what we are seeing right now. It is going to have an impact. So thank you, sir, for allowing me to come back.
Ms. Jenkins, and through the chair, if I could comment on that. I posed a question as if I lived in American Beach, because I was curious as to what the American Beach community could do to possibly change the future land use designation of commercial.
I appreciated that question, and of course, I believe that the community has the right to go before the county and ask for the future land use designation to be changed. But we will only find out if that is allowed if we make that effort. I can't speak for the members of the residents, but as a person who is of Gullah Geechee culture, I would think that that would be the appropriate thing to do in an area where they're still living and they have every intention of remaining as single family. It seems that creating a situation where your inconsistency rises to an unjust consistency doesn't make sense to me. And it makes more sense to correct what is unjust and make people apply that consistency. You understand?
I do, and my concern and final comment to the point is when I asked the question, I kind of already knew the answer, that the only thing that could happen, as Ms. Bach said, was single family. So, my encouragement would be, obviously, this property owner has private property rights. You all, everybody does. And we by no means want to defer those rights. However, there is a good point that Will brought up, that there's this designation future land use that doesn't necessarily seem to fit. And it's the property owners who have the power to solicit from the county perhaps a change through the proper channels and the proper time.
Yes, I understand.
And I would encourage that, obviously.
And just to add to that, I just wanted to mention that, as Mr. Ryder mentioned as well, we don't know the point at which this was designated to be commercial for the underlying future land use. But at the point that that happened, those property owners do have the right to have that future land use on their property.
Very important.
At this
Understood.
point,
Yeah.
you know, at some point in the past, perhaps communities may have gone in after the fact and wholesale changed future land use categories for properties.
Yep.
But now, the current practice in this county is to let each applicant come in, as this one has done, and make that request without the county going ahead and changing it on their behalf, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm,
So
absolutely.
that has been the practice, and I believe will continue to be the practice. That being said, I do want to mention, and this board is aware, that the county has gone through the Timber to Tides design overlay and currently processing applications within the William Burgess District to, at no cost to the applicant, to fix mismatches between zonings and future land uses. That
May I-
was not, just one more statement, that was not the planning department's decision to do that. That was decided upon by the Board of County Commissioners, and there was a fiscal impact to doing that. So I cannot make any promises just being the planning director, but I did want to make you fully aware that that is something that has happened in the county. And we can talk afterwards if the community has a strong desire to see an opportunity for folks to avail themselves of such type of opportunity.
Just a question about the deadline for the window of opportunity when the comprehensive plan amendments and things of that nature are closed. When is that going to wrap up, that we would no longer have an opportunity to bring concerns?
So those are only happening right now in the William Burgess District, and it's already closed for the Timber to Tides.
Well, I mean, the
They're-
comprehensive plan revisions in general.
Oh, the comp plan 2050, that one
Yes.
is underway and is not going to be complete likely until early of 2027.
Okay,
But
thank you.
it is also not, I can't 100% guarantee, but it's not anticipated to take people's property and, you know, change that they have commercial underlying land use right now, that the county would go in and wholesale, you know, change it to residential.
Right,
That's
I
not- That's
understand.
not on the table, to my knowledge.
I understand that there's a certain way that things are being done, and I think it's important for the people to understand that our elected representatives need to listen to what it is we want. And so if we come to them and assert a certain request, then we should at least be heard.
Right.
But
and
thank you so much.
Just to clarify, that doesn't have to happen during the amendment process for a comp plan. It could be at any point, like right now, it's being done for the William Burgess District.
However, the comp plan is only revised every 10 years. So
We do the ear-based amendments every 7 years, and then the full update is basically when the county feels like it's the right time to do that.
right, so there's a good window of opportunity here if we really
Yep.
want to do that. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Do we have any further board questions for staff or for the members of the public? Floor is now closed for public discussion for tab C. Do we have any further board deliberation? I
Through
will-
the chair, if I could. Beat you to the punch
You
there.
did.
Based upon the record of evidence testimony received, I find the plan amendment is consistent with policy FL.01.02.b and policy FL.01.04a through G of the Nassau County Comprehensive Plan. Therefore, my motion is to recommend approval of CPA 26-010.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Tabs D through F are quasi judicial hearings. County Attorney, please read the procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The following items are to be heard as quasi-judicial hearings. Tab D, consider R 26-009 and ordinance 2026-051, the rezoning of approximately 1.01 acres located on the west side of US Highway 17 between Crosby Ave and William Burgess Boulevard, from industrial warehouse, IW, to commercial general, CJ. Liberty Bail Bonds, LLC owner, and Nassau County is the agent. This is in District 3. For tab E, consider R 26-010 and ordinance 2026-054, the rezoning of approximately 2.41 acres located on the northwest corner of US Highway 17 and Harts Road from open rural OR to Commercial General CG. Harts 49 LLC owner and Nassau County is the agent. This is also in District 3. For tab F, consider CU 2025-021. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a recreational vehicle park in the Recreation and Open Space ROS zoning district. Blake Bryson LLC owner, Ian Farhat, and Wyman Duggan agents, that is in District 4. A quasi-judicial hearing by state and case law is different than a regular hearing conducted by this board. A quasi-judicial hearing is less formal than a court hearing, but similar in procedures and evidentiary matters. Applicants have the burden of demonstrating through competent substantial evidence that their application is consistent with the following requirements. As for tabs D and E, policy FL.01.02C, and policy FL.08.06 A through G of the Nassau County Comprehensive Plan, and section 5.02C and section 5.02D 1 through 8 of the Nassau County Land Development Code. As for tab F, Land Development Code section 24-03C, section 28.09, and section 5.04A through K. Those opposed must also demonstrate through competent substantial evidence that the application does not meet these requirements. The board welcomes comments from all who have an interest in this proceeding, but Florida law requires that the board's decision in a quasi-judicial action must be supported by competent substantial evidence presented to the board during the hearing on this application. General objections without specific evidence does not constitute substantial competent evidence. The only material or relevant evidence is that which addresses the statutory or code requirements. Email communications received until the time of this meeting are part of the public record for the hearing, but are not without more competent substantial evidence. The applicant is entitled to be represented by counsel. If any applicant desires continuance to obtain counsel, they can come forward. And the hearing procedures are as follows. Staff will be sworn in to describe the applicant's request. Staff will have 10 minutes. The applicant may then waive their presentation and rely on staff comments. If the applicant waives their presentation, they retain the right to rebut any testimony against their application. For tabs D and E, the agent is Nassau County, so there won't necessarily be a separate applicant presentation. For tab F, does the applicant want to waive their presentation?
Yes.
Okay, would you mind coming up and stating that at the microphone so it's recorded on the record?
Thank you. I'm Wyman Duggan, 1301 River Place Boulevard, Suite 1500 in Jacksonville. I'm the attorney for the applicant. Also was listed as the agent. We waive the presentation. We would reserve the right to rebut.
Yes, absolutely. You will have the opportunity to rebut any testimony or additional comments.
Thank you.
Public participants for or against the application will be sworn in and will have 3 minutes each to provide testimony and present evidence to the board. Extensions of time may be granted through the chair. Sharing or transferring of time is not allowed. Public participants presenting evidence for or against the application will address the board at the podium, and any documentation or photographs must be submitted to the clerk. The documents will not be returned as they become a part of the official record and minutes. The applicant or representative will have a maximum of 10 minutes for cross-exam or for any rebuttal. Staff will then have 5 minutes to provide final comments to the board. Board will then close the public hearing and discuss the application. They may ask questions of the applicant, staff, or witnesses for or against the application. Any motion of the board should include whether the board member finds competent substantial evidence in the record and or testimony received to support the board's decision to approve or deny the agenda item. And again, the meeting is being recorded, and therefore there can be no applause, outburst, talking, or comments, as it could distort the recording. That concludes the procedures, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regarding tab D, is there any ex parte communication to disclose?
None.
Madam Clerk, please identify the documents to be placed into the record for tab D.
Tab B, application R26-009, application for rezoning, 10 pages, consent forms, 2 pages, staff report, 5 pages, draft ordinance 2026-051, Nassau County Business Impact Estimate, 2 pages, and staff presentation, 10 pages.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to accept these documents into the record?
So move. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. The floor is now open for public hearing in tab D. We'll begin with the staff presentation.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and title.
Elizabeth Beck, Planning Director for the Planning Department. Good evening. What we have before us tonight is an application for rezoning, and this one is similar to what we've seen in the Timber to Tides. It seeks to correct a mismatch between the future land use category and the zoning district. So the applicant for this is Liberty Bail Bonds Nassau LLC. The agent is the county, and it's in Commission District 3. The parcel is approximately 1.01 acres, and they are seeking to move from industrial warehouse, or IW, to commercial general, CG. So just to orient you here, we are looking at the southern portion of the William Burgess District. The parcel is here in red. It's on the west side of US Highway 17, and it is between Crosby Avenue and William Burgess Boulevard. You can see Nassau Crossing way over here on the west, just west of the railroad track. We're looking on the left-hand picture. We have here the parcel in red. You can see the IW, or industrial warehouse zoning, this parcel and the one to the north. And then looking on the right-hand side, you can see that they have a mismatch by having the underlying land use of commercial or COM. So this is all in your staff report. I'll kind of move through this somewhat quickly. I know we've got a long evening here tonight for you. But commercial general is for general commercial uses. Will meet the retail sales and service needs of county residents. It's intended to encourage the concentration of these general commercial uses and not the extension of strip commercial areas. We do have to abut a roadway as a collector or hire on the highway classification map, and nodal development pattern is preferred, but we can look at commercial infill. So the commercial future land use category is for activities predominantly associated with sale, rental, distribution of products, or performance of services. And in this vicinity, we have commercial store, retail sales, multifamily residences, and the rezoning to CG would be consistent with the development pattern seen along this stretch of US Highway 17. Okay, as I mentioned, this is all in your staff report, so I just want to move through this a little bit quickly, but I did want to make you aware, as I mentioned, we've done the Timber to Tides design overlay ability for folks to request fix to their mismatched zoning and land use. On May 11th of 2026, the BOCC did approve a resolution enabling this to be done in the William Burgess District. So you have some properties that, with a mismatch, are not able to develop either commercially or residentially, and whichever way they're seeking to fix. This property currently has a commercial building on it, so they're not envisioning using industrial on the property, so they've elected to move towards the direction of fixing the IW to conform with the commercial rather than seeking industrial underlying land use and to match the IW. So they are, yep, that's all explained there. And this does align with our strategic plan initiatives in prioritizing economic development, promoting the 6 pillars of Florida's future economy from the Florida Chamber of Commerce, in terms of diversifying the county's tax and employment base and lessening the tax burden for existing residences and businesses. And also aligns with the action and strategy B.1.3 from the Vision 2050 plan, which is to support reinvestment and redevelopment of underutilized retail and service centers and commercial corridors. There are no wetlands identified on the site, and it is also not within a special flood hazard area. Environmentally sensitive lands were not identified. However, they will be required to meet required buffers per the Land Development Code, and drainage, stormwater requirements. Areas of historical or cultural significance have not been identified on or adjacent to this site. So in summation, the county does find this rezoning request to be consistent with the requirements of future land use policies, the land development code requirements, and based on these findings, staff is recommending approval of application 26009, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I have no public comment cards for tab D. Do you have any questions for staff?
I do. Ms. Pot,
Yes, sir.
now that you're back at the
Now I'm
mic,
back here.
and I'm so sorry that most of the people have left the room, but this whole agenda item is based on Nassau County rectifying issues
Between the
that exist
mismatch.
between the flume,
Correct.
the reality. And so I just want to get it on the record. I don't know if they'll watch the video, but this is the whole thing that we're talking about.
Correct. And this resolution that I spoke of, that the board approved in, I think it was in May, is for a specific area, the William Burgess District. It was brought to the county's attention and discussed during the winter strategic planning session. So just if folks are still listening, that is the process that was followed to seek board approval and have it be brought before the board as a recommendation to move forward. Funds were allocated for the planning department to cover the cost of the noticing, the mailed notice and the legal ads and the sign posting of the site. So those costs were, that's how the county is sponsoring this request and covering those fees in this area following what was done for the Timber to Tides design overlay. The only difference with Timber to Tides was that you had a choice as a property owner to either move to the transect or fix your mismatch. So we had a combination during those 7 months, which we're still wrapping up. For William Burgess, the approval was only to fix the mismatch because the William Burgess District was approved quite a few years ago, I believe in 2019. So that window has closed since. It was done at the same time, right when the Timber to Tides was approved.
Thanks for that
Sure.
example.
Any other questions? Do we have any final comments from staff?
Oh, no, sir.
Any other board questions of anyone? Public hearing for tab D is now closed. Do we have any further board deliberation? I will entertain a motion for approval or denial of R26-009.
Mr. Chairman. Go ahead. I yield to you, Mr. Blue.
Based upon the record, evidence, and testimony received, I find that there is competent substantial evidence pursuant to policy FL.01.02.c and policy FL.08.06A through G of the Nassau County Comprehensive Plan and Section 5.02C, Section 5.02D, 1 through 8 of the Nassau County Land Development Code, and therefore my motion is to recommend approval of R26-009.
Motion made by Vice Chair Blue,
Second.
second by Member Henson. Madam Chair, please call the vote.
Board Member Hodges?
Yes.
Board Member Henson?
Yes.
Board Member Fignig? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Board Member Blue?
Yes.
Board Member Morris?
Yes.
Board Member Valenta?
Yes.
And Chair Erickson?
Yes,
That's 7 ayes, 0 nays.
thank you. Regarding tab E, does any member have any ex parte communication to disclose?
Mr. Chair.
Madam Clerk, please identify the documents to be placed into the record for tab E.
Application R26-010, application for rezoning 10 pages, consent forms 2 pages, application for rezoning 5 pages, draft ordinance 2026-054 7 pages, Nassau County Business Impact Estimate 2 pages, and staff presentation 10 pages.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept these documents into the record?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The floor is now open for public hearing in tab E. We'll begin with the staff presentation.
Good Good evening again. Elizabeth back with the Planning Department. So this is a request using the same county sponsorship. Request for rezoning for 2.41 acres, seeking to move from open rural or OR to commercial general or CG. Hertz 49 LLC is the applicant, and this is in Commission District 3. This one is a little bit further south, but also along US Highway 17 from the one we just heard. This is at the northwest corner of Highway 17, and you can see Harts Road coming across here. So on the left-hand side, we have a map showing the zoning. You can see that it's OR. They're seeking to move to CG, which would be consistent with, as you'll see on the right-hand side, the graphic showing this commercial stretch that runs really east, on the east and west sides of US Highway 17 there. So we had discussed previously what land designated in CG is to serve the general commercial uses, retail sales, and service needs of county residents, and that nodal development patterns at major intersections is preferred, but an exception may occur for commercial infill to encourage a more compact land use pattern. And the commercial future land use designation is intended for activities primarily associated with sale, rental, and distribution of products or performance of service. And within this vicinity, uses include a repair shop, a convenience store, gas station, retail sales, sale of sheds, and single-family residences. And this rezoning would be consistent with the development pattern we're seeing along US Highway 17 in this area. So just to reference back again to the Board of County Commissioners approving a resolution in May 11th to allow a transition period of 7 months. Letters were mailed to residents in this vicinity, alerting them of their parcel being on this Exhibit A that showed the mismatch, and they have voluntarily been bringing these applications in. So you'll continue to see these for a couple more months. This request is consistent with our strategic plan, prioritizing economic development, business expansion and retention, job creation, and facilitating the application of the 6 pillars of Florida's future economy. And also consistent with the comprehensive plan economic development goal to diversify the county's tax and employment base and lessen the tax burden for existing residents and businesses. And also aligns, again, with the Vision 2050 action and strategy, which is to support reinvestment and redevelopment of underutilized retail and service centers and commercial corridors. Wetlands have not been identified on this site, nor is it located in a special flood hazard area. There are no known environmentally sensitive lands on the property. They will be required to meet Land Development Code sections for any required buffers and drainage and stormwater requirements. I will note there are ranch-style structures that were constructed in 1959 and 1965 located on a part of this property. They are identified in the county's Phase 2 Historic Resources Survey. However, they are not identified as being eligible for the National Register of Historic Places nor district designation. The frame vernacular structure that was constructed in 1949 is also identified in that survey, but was not deemed to be eligible for the Register for Historic Places nor any district designation. Finally, a frame vernacular structure constructed in 1935 was identified, but is not identified as being eligible for the Historic Places individual or district designation. I just say that to note the presence of these on the parcel, and it would be my recommendation that as this goes through the process, that photographs capture, they have been captured, but that photographs are taken before, if anything is proposed to be demolished. Beyond that, the rezoning is found to be consistent with the requirements of future land use policies, the Land Development Code, and staff is recommending approval of this request. I will note that we We do not know of the plans of the developer, but did want to note that they are here to fix that mismatch situation. And my understanding is that this property has sat underutilized and underdeveloped for a number of years. And this is one of the reasons this whole mismatch situation was brought to the attention of the county, was for this and one other parcel. And so some other folks are benefiting from that person's bringing that to our attention. But this one really is in a commercial nodal area, and reinvestment, can take some time in these areas. So this should be a facilitation of that. But happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. I have no public comment cards for tab E. Do we have any final comments from staff?
No, sir.
Any board questions? Closing the public hearing for tab E. Do we have any further board deliberation? I will entertain a motion for approval or denial of R26-010.
Mr. Chair, based upon the record evidence and testimony received, I find that there is competent and substantial evidence pursuant to policy FL.01.02C and policy FL.08.06A through G of the Nassau County Comprehensive Plan and section 5.02C and section 5.02D 1 through 8 of the Nassau County Land Development Code, and therefore, my motion is to recommend approval of R26-010.
Motion made by Board Member Morse,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Blue. Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Board Member Valenta,
Yes.
Board Member Morse,
Yes.
Board Member Blue,
Yes.
Board Member Fendig,
Yes.
Board Member Henson,
Yes.
and Board Member Hodges,
Yes.
and Chair Erickson.
Yes,
7 ayes, 0 nays.
thank you. Regarding tab F, does any member have any ex parte communication to disclose?
None.
Madam Clerk, please identify the documents to be placed into the record for tab F.
CU 2025-021, application for conditional use, 9 pages, site plan, 1 page, staff report, 7 pages, and staff's presentation is 17 pages.
And I'll entertain a motion to accept these documents into the record.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed say no. Floor is now open for public hearing on tab F, and we'll begin with a staff presentation.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and title for the record.
Adam Olson, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. Good evening again, everyone. I'll give the staff presentation for our final tab tonight, which is tab F, which is a request to consider a conditional use permit. This is application number CU 2025-021. The owner is Blake Bryson LLC, and the agents are Ian Farhat and Wyman Duggan, and this is in Commission District 4. Here's the location of the property. It's right along the St. Mary's River, along where US 1 and County Road 121 meet as you're going north into Folkestone. So it's this property highlighted in red along the river. And the current zoning of the property is ROS, Recreation Open Space, and the future land use is recreation, which this is a zoning district, and a future land use, there aren't too many in the county. There are not too many of these properties. But that's because this property came in for rezoning and a flume amendment in October of 2025, so just fairly recently. They had, the same owner requested to have the property rezoned in the flume amendment. So it was amended from agriculture to recreation in October of 2025. And then it was amended from commercial general to ROS in 2025. The recreation future land use is designated for activities that are either resource-based or activity-based, such as hiking trails, campsites, ball fields, golf courses, and tennis courts. And staff finds that the proposed RV park will meet this recreation land use, since they're proposing to construct a trail down to the St. Mary's River, as well as a dock and a small boat launch. These features would serve as an amenity-based facility and therefore conform with the recreation future land use. And for the zoning, it's similar to the recreation land use. The ROS zoning district is intended for activities, recreational leisure activities on the land. And we find that an RV park is allowed as a conditional use in the ROS zoning district. And again, they'd be providing this sort of recreational feature with the trail and the boat launch. Therefore, we find that it meets the allowances of the ROS zoning district. Here's the site plan that hopefully you were able to see in the package with the agenda for the RV park. Again, the RV spaces are shown closer to County Road 121. The back half of the property is mostly wetlands, but you can see there's also the trail and the dock designated on the site plan. Again, when we consider conditional use for approval, there are the 11 criteria in LDC section 5.04. I'm going to try not to go through every detail here from the criteria. But again, is criteria A, would there be any detriment to public health or public safety? But staff finds that an RV park is of moderate intensity. There are potential impacts such as noise, vehicle traffic, and waste generation. But we find that when the next step for this project would be site engineering plan review with the county through the DRC. And at that point, we'll make sure that this project meets the requirements for the septic system as well as site layout, which should address concerns, due to traffic and waste generation. So overall, we find that the development should not impact the general welfare of the area. Criteria B, are there any unsafe structures per Code of Ordinances, Article 7? But there are currently no existing unsafe structures on the property. Therefore, this criteria would be met. Criteria C, adverse impacts to other permitted uses in the vicinity. There are some adjacent properties along US 1 which are commercial, and then on the west side, there's some that are residential. So staff finds that this RV park is sort of a transitional use from commercial to residential. Therefore, we find that it would meet properties in the vicinity. Criteria D, will it impede orderly development of the surrounding properties? The RV park, again, as I said, is considered a transitional use, therefore it should fit with the area. The site has the zoning and future land use designation already for recreational uses. And staff will review for any screening, buffering, and lighting impacts during the engineering review process through the DRC. Criteria E, is there sufficient water and sewage treatment? And the location of this property, they would have to use well and septic for the water and sewage, but again, the septic system would be reviewed by the Department of Health or engineering plan review. Would there be adequate access, parking, and on-site loading? Each RV space is shown to be 66 feet long in their site plan, which is sufficient room to provide parking for the RV, for the recreational vehicle, as well as an additional vehicle, which meets the county code requirement. LDC section 2809 prohibits parking RVs or other vehicles in connection with the RV park in the right-of-way. So again, there has to be sufficient parking within the RV park, but again, that the spaces being 66 feet long, there should be space for that. And any internal drive aisle, stormwater management, and drainage will be reviewed by the county during the engineering plan review. Is there proper ingress and egress to address minimum traffic congestion? Since this project's on County Road 121, this is a higher classification of road. It's not a small local road, so it can handle, an increased capacity from RVs, as well as it's adjacent to US 1. So County Road 121, US 1 are of a sufficient capacity to handle the increase in traffic. In criteria H, screening and buffering. Vegetative buffers would be required for this project per the county's land development code. They would be installed where it's adjacent to residential properties that are surrounding and any other non-compatible uses. So staff would require this during engineering plan review. We've also suggested a condition of approval regarding the landscape buffers. Hopefully you're able to see this when you review the package. I can elaborate that when I go through the conditions, but we are requesting to preserve any existing trees and vegetation. The buffer is not allowing the owner to clear what's there and replant. We try to keep the mature trees. So we're suggesting that as a condition of approval, just to keep a more enhanced buffer of the existing vegetation. Any signage and lighting would have to follow the county codes. And staff is also suggesting another condition relating to light intensity, which we would look at during plan review. Conformance to the zoning district. Again, an RV park is allowed as a conditional use in the ROS zoning district, therefore it's conforming. In conformance to the comp plan, again, it already has recreation future land use and the RV park having recreational activities is compatible with the land use. So staff finds this request to be consistent with the conditional use review criteria in the LDC. We recommend approval of the application for the conditional use pursuant to LDC section 24.03C and section 28.09 to establish an RV park in the ROS zoning district. Staff is recommending 9 conditions of approval along with this. I have them here on the slides, but instead of me having to go through and read each one, here on my staff report, I noted just a little summary here, like a keyword of what each of these conditions are, so I'll go through those now. So for condition 1, we're recommending that they not construct more than the number of spaces which is shown on the site plan, which is 55. Condition 2, that only RVs would be permitted on the site, so no permanent dwellings, which is typical for RV parks. Condition 3, there can be no constructed appendages to the RVs. You can't build any permanent decks or other features, which again is a requirement for RV parks in general in the county. Condition 4, that the trail and the dock down on the St. Mary's River is a requirement for this project, so as it goes forward, that would be required for the project. Condition 5 is the one about the buffer, so again, we're requesting that they preserve existing vegetation, and where that's not sufficient, they'll supplement to meet the minimum density of trees. Condition 6, there shall be no obstructions such as the septic system in any of these required landscape buffers. It can only be landscaping. Condition 7, there should be no other improvements such as RV spaces, parking spaces, or sidewalks in any of the landscape buffers. Shall only be landscaping. Condition 8 is the condition on limiting light intensity. So we're requiring that when this comes through for site plan review, there shall be no more than, foot candle measurement shall not exceed 0 along property boundaries, which means there should not be any light, spilling off of this property onto adjacent properties. And if an engineer provides the foot candles based on light fixtures, we should be able to review for that. And the last condition, condition 9, is that the rights entitled with this approval should run with the land and be transferable to any future owners. So that concludes the presentation. If you have any questions, I'm available.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We will now call to the podium those who have completed a public comment card for tab F, and I do have quite a few. I will begin with, looks like Diana Foraker.
Hello, my name is Diana Foraker. I preside at 2845 Fox Cove Place, Hilliard, Florida.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
through the chair before you, yep, thank you.
You're right. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You're good. You've stated your name and your address.
My concerns about having an RV park right up next to my home, and it will come right to my property line. My daughter and I have lived there. She's 45. We've lived there 43 years. My daughter is nonverbal, stage 4 autism. I moved there for the safety of my daughter because it's 4 houses, and all 4 of these houses treat my daughter not as neighbors, but as family. They look after my daughter. This might not be a big concern to this county, but my daughter does not have any fear of strangers. If you walk up to her and tell her to come with you, she goes with you. My daughter also has a sensory problem. She will not wear clothes half the time. She takes her clothes off. Am I able to keep my eye on her 24/7? No, I'm not. I'm not. I'm human. I have to go to the bathroom. I have to shower. I've been able for 43 years to keep my daughter safe. I'm afraid with all the transients coming through. And they're in an RV park. We don't know where the pedophile's at or any of that. I'll no longer be able to keep my daughter safe from a very cruel world. And I know it's cruel because I've experienced it for 45 years. My other problems we're talking about the St. Mary's River. We have all the animals, all the things that my daughter has enjoyed over the years. That's going to go away. Now, you can say it's not, but it will. It will, because humans are like that. They destroy everything they touch. Anything that can't fight back, they destroy. I'm asking y'all to consider that it's not just my handicapped child, but we have another little boy that's blind, that's in the house next door. We've prided ourselves on keeping these children safe. We're not gonna be able to do it anymore. That's gonna go away. You've got 55 RVs sitting there. You're asking for vegetation to protect my daughter from strangers. And I know that there are laws and all that. I'm just asking you to please consider my daughter. Please consider her safety. Please consider what it's gonna do to our river and our marshlands, and it will affect them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will call Sheila Pate.
Yes, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Okay, now please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sheila Pate. I live at 2857 Fox Club Place. Been there since 1994. We've all been there a long time. I did prepare my concerns to fit within my 3 minutes, so I'm going to read them. That's okay. St. Mary's River Overlay Violations, Article 36. RV parks require extensive grading, gravel, and utility hookups. Clearing land this close to the river will cause severe storm runoff, erosion, and river contamination from vehicle fluids. 2, RV parks create a high-density, commercial-style parking lot right next to our quiet residential property. There will be headlights, late-night noise, and lack of privacy. Amelia River Campground at Fort Clinch has only 42 sites on much more land. We need to limit the number of campsites to no more than 20 for such a small space, if allowed. 3, wetlands force all of the infrastructure onto the upland area. This forces high-density traffic and waste infrastructure way too close to our shared property line. I'm asking if it's permitted that there's no septic system. Make the RVs dump their waste elsewhere. If a dump station is on the property, then he can have it emptied when it's full, as to eliminate contamination of our groundwater and our river. We all have wells, and we drink our water. This will also eliminate people choosing to live here long-term. The chemicals used inside RVs will kill the natural environment in a septic system, and we as neighbors will endure the foul odors and effects of such a system. 55 RVs can overwhelm a drain field when they leave after a holiday. Plus, they draw water for their showers and could deplete my well. 4, I believe an RV park will diminish the value of my property. We have lived here for 32 years for the peace, quiet, safety, and privacy. With many people comes more crime. I may need to add additional security systems for safety of my possessions and my life. This stress affects my quality of life and diminishes our peace and enjoyment of our home. Every vehicle that enters will pass by my bedroom window closer than I park my own car in the front yard. If approved, I ask for conditions. Privacy fence tall enough to block any lighting, security or otherwise. A 50-foot natural border. No drain fields to prevent contamination of our groundwater. This also dissuades long-term stays. Limit the number of the sites. Considering the bordering properties only have a total of about 16 people on the surrounding 6 acres, this RV park could allow 8 people per RV, bringing over 400 people onto their 6 acres. 7 acres, they got 3 that's wetland. The rest is wetland. Think of water consumption and drying out our wells along with the sewage produced. On-site security to enforce the noise safety complaints so we don't have to call our police for these issues. Also control the campers from exploring the wetlands and trespassing by keeping people on the boardwalk. Recap of my concerns: property value, resale opportunity, quality of life, noise, privacy, wildlife, river protection, crime and safety, health and safety, sewage concerns, wells and smells. I think a couple of homes would be more consistent with what surrounds this property. It would also be profitable to the owner. He recently sold a home for over $1 million that borders my property on the other side. Seems that that would fit the residents and not negatively impact the environment, and it would be profitable to the owner. Thank you. for
Thank you.
considering our concerns.
Next, we will call Emily Floor.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God? I do. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening. Emily Floor. I'm the Executive Director for St. Mary's Riverkeeper. Our business is at 694 East William Avenue in Kingsland, Georgia. However, we are a local nonprofit environmental organization dedicated to protecting the St. Mary's River now and for our future. We work in both Florida and Georgia, so yay, my job. Thank you for the opportunity for speaking tonight. As Nassau County continues to grow, we have an opportunity to ensure new development reflects the vision already established in the county's 2050 comprehensive plan. The recreation and open space element and the conservation element recognizes that our rivers, forests, wetlands, and open spaces are not only valuable natural resources, but also essential to recreation, water quality, flood protection, and the quality of life that makes Nassau County such a special place to live and visit. This proposed RV park is located in close proximity to the St. Mary's River, making thoughtful site design especially important. The proposed 55 RV site are concentrated in approximately 7.38 acres of a developable upland with 3.31 acres of property consisting of wetlands. This creates an effective density of approximately 7.5 RV sites per developable acre and leaves limited room to preserve natural features, provide adequate stormwater management, accommodate on-site wastewater infrastructure, and maintain the ecological functions that protect the St. Mary's River. The current proposed density represents a more intensive campground design rather than low-density, nature-based RV experience that prioritizes open space, natural features, and connection with the surrounding environment. I encourage the applicant and the commission to consider reducing the number of RV sites to create a more balanced design that preserves existing trees, open space, and natural habitat while enhancing resilience, infiltration, and protection of water quality. The lower density design would reduce impervious surface, improve stormwater infiltration, lessen runoff to the river, and increase the site's resilience to heavy rainfall and future flooding. Preserving mature native trees and maximizing pervious surfaces are important design strategies that provide long-term environmental and economic benefits. Mature trees serve as natural infrastructure by intercepting rainfall, reducing erosion, filtering pollutants, providing shade, and reducing the amount of stormwater that engineered systems must manage. Given the scale of this project and its proximity to the St. Mary's River, I also encourage careful consideration of the on-site wastewater treatment system. A 55-site full-service RV park would generate several thousands of gallons of wastewater per day, making proper design, siting, and low-term maintenance essential to protecting groundwater and surface water quality. Finally, I recommend that the project of this scale include a wildlife management plan before construction begins. This property may provide habitat for protected species and identify sensitive habitat early, preserving wildlife corridors where possible and planning appropriate protections. I encourage the county to use this project as an opportunity to evaluate updates to the Land Development Code for development near rivers, wetlands, floodplains, and environmentally sensitive areas. As our region experiences more frequent flooding and intense rainfall, resilience planning should become a standard part of the development review. Future projects should work with natural systems by preserving flood storage, protecting natural buffers, incorporating green stormwater infrastructure, maximizing infiltration, and minimizing runoff before it reaches our waterways. I respectfully ask the Commission to encourage revisions that reduce development intensity, preserve natural habitat, maximize infiltration, and incorporate resilience design. I also encourage future updates to the development standards so projects near our rivers reflect Nassau's commitment to conservation, recreation, and long-term resilience. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. I believe I have one left, this Mark Pate.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please state your name and address.
Mark Pate, 2857 Foxglove Place. I've lived there, like my wife said, we've lived there 33 years. I'm not against people having land and doing stuff with it. I'm not against him building homes on the land. That would give people a vested interest in living there. I'm afraid what's going to happen is the same thing that's happened to the two RV parks that are within a mile or two of my house already. Shady Oaks and St. Mary's River RV Park. They've turned into trailer parks to where people live. You don't know who's there. I've talked to law enforcement that park down the road from me. I've just pulled up and asked them, do you have any problems with these places? They've all stated every weekend. If you allow transient people to live in campers in a small area, you're going to invite everything. You're going to invite good people. You're going to invite bad people. We are literally a tape measure away from where this guy wants to start building this thing. That's the buffer he's given me, 25 feet. I see his flags out there. They're literally from me to Miss Linda Morse here. I don't think that's near enough. If you approve this plan, give me 50 foot and an 8-foot privacy fence. Where this turn-in is for his project, and I'm sure the state and everybody else will look at it, the county, I don't see a lane to get off that road. 121, where that is a continuous curve. I've had semis run me off the road before because they're coming trying to avoid the way station down there, and they use 121 all the time to do it. And they're coming around trying to get to US 1 so they can get on into Georgia without getting checked. It happens a lot. I'm afraid there's going to be wrecks. There's kids out there sometimes. People could get run over. There has to be a turn lane built off the side of the road so these big campers and these vehicles that are pulling them can get off the road. You know, I know y'all are going to do what you're going to do, and it's all going to be legal. But think about if this was behind your house, how you'd feel. You know, you don't see them in Fernandina. You see probably hardly any of them in Yulee. They're all on the west side of the county. And I know we've got the property. I know the property, the rural property's out there. You know, I'm not going to go into the wetlands. They've talked enough about that. But that's another concern. Animals. You're going to have to clear a lot of this land to put 55 sites on 7 acres. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Will the applicant care to do any rebuttal at this point?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Since he already swore in earlier, does he need to do it again?
He's a lawyer representing the applicant, so he doesn't need to swear in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity. I just want to run through some facts that bear on the testimony that you've heard tonight. As you've already heard in your staff report, we did a land use amendment and a rezoning in 2025 in October, less than a year ago, for the express purpose of developing this use. For some of your other applications tonight that you approved, at least in one, there was a statement made, we don't know what the landowner intends to do with this property, but we're making this change. Well, the land use amendment and rezoning that we did less than a year ago were for exactly this use. So the staff analysis that was part of those applications that recommended approval and the BCC vote that were done in connection with those applications contemplated exactly this use. The previous zoning was CG, commercial general. So this property could have been developed with commercial uses, and all of the wetlands could have been impacted in connection with that development. Instead, we are preserving all of the wetlands on site, 3.3 acres. All of the development will stay out of the jurisdictional wetlands. You already have development standards for RV parks in your code, section 28.09, I believe. And we are complying with all of those standards. And your staff are requiring that. Those are factoring into the site plan. We have done probably 3 different iterations of the site plan to get to this point based on feedback and comments from the staff. So the process has been going on all along, and we've met those asks, particularly as it relates to the buffers and the well and septic issues. And again, we have 9 conditions, and we're also going to have to go through DRC review after this stop. I will say just anecdotally, RV parks are not noisy at night. The folks who do this kind of traveling around, they want to go to sleep at night. They're not looking to party. As you heard in the initial presentation from your counsel at the beginning of the quasi-judicial section of the meeting, there must be competent, substantial evidence for you to make your decisions. And your staff report is competent, substantial, expert opinion. And in order for you to deviate from that expert opinion, there must be expert testimony, data, and analysis that you can rely on to deviate from what your own staff expert has told you. So we've heard a lot of concerns tonight, and I understand those concerns. But in order for you to make your decision, there had to be expert testimony. And as you heard in your initial, the initial brief from your attorney, merely saying, I don't like this or I don't agree with this isn't expert testimony for you to rely on. So for example, as to property values, there was no testimony from a broker or an appraiser about the impacts of this on their property values. Instead, you have in your staff report a finding that it will not affect property values. There was no planner who was brought here to tell you that this use is not consistent with the comprehensive plan or with the neighborhood or will impact drainage or utilities. There was no environmental expert brought before you tonight to address any environmental impacts on the wetlands or the animals. There was nobody no crime data was provided to you as to the incidence of crime in RV parks because there were some allegations about the safety of them. There was nobody here who provided expert testimony about the RV industry and what this will develop into and what it will look like. And instead, you have conditions before you that will prohibit, for example, this turning into a trailer park where people reside on a permanent, full-time basis. We will not be able to do that. And finally, as to the Riverkeeper, they are not a regulatory agency. They have no enforcement authority. The young lady who spoke did not present any credentials that she might have as to wetland ecology or marine biology or any type of scientific expertise as to, or planning expertise, or utility expertise, or resiliency expertise, or hydrology, none of that. The Riverkeeper is an advocacy organization, and it does great work. But as it relates to the allegations related to this application, you do not have any expert data and analysis that provides you competent and substantial evidence to not follow your own expert. So with that, I'll stand by for any questions you may have. Thank you.
I have a feeling we might have some questions for you. Am I correct in feeling that?
I think you're correct, yes, sir.
All right.
First to staff, and Ms. Bach, you can probably answer this off the top of your head. So once this is approved, when is, I'm not sure the proper term, but before they install or allow somebody to move in there for whatever period of time, is there an equivalent of a CO that's issued? In other words,
So
everything's been met?
Right, so the first process after, should this be approved tonight, they would move through the site engineering plan review process. for the development, and as Mr. Olson mentioned, there would be certain buffers looked at and transportation, potential transportation improvements that would move through that process. At times, it requires multiple submittals, but eventually the Development Review Committee, or DRC, would be the approving body for that. And then moving forward, then they would seek permits and go through the building department review for permits for approvals.
So at what point would the 9 conditions be required to have been met? Is that prior to what I would call a CO or the permit, or after?
So it'd be multiple checkpoints, basically during the SEP or site engineering process, plan review process. It's likely that Mr. Olson would be the person reviewing that for planning, but multiple departments are involved, from fire rescue, development services, health department, and so on. So any conformance with those conditions of approval will be required, and revisions will be requested if those aren't shown on the site plan.
Okay.
And then the same thing when the building permits are requested. The planning department would be reviewing that as well, in addition to the other DRC reviewing entities.
So one question to the applicant's counsel, what do you think about a fence behind these single-family homes that do border? Is that something that you think your client would, as a way to make peace, be willing to do?
Thank you for that question. I would say, first of all, the county has made the policy decision as to what buffers are required for this use. They're set forth in your code, in section 28.09. So a fence is not one of them. And it was not proposed as a proposed condition. I can't speak for the applicant in that regard, but the applicant is here. They haven't filled out a speaker card, but if you want to pose that question to them, we can do that.
I would love to hear an answer to that, yes.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, please state your name and address for the record.
Ian Farhat, 371053 Kings Ferry Road. I don't believe a fence is necessary. I believe we're given a substantial buffer, 25 feet. I mean, fencing off with solid fence all the way around a 7-acre lot is going to be quite expensive. We're already planning to add shrubbery into that 25 feet. It is cleared now. We've already saved all the major trees, and we're not mentioning all the other trees that we're saving on the lot and building around them, when we could have just took them all down. So we're
Would you
not making.
consider a fence just around those stack of residential homes?
It'd
only?
be something we'd have to look into, you know. Like I said, it wasn't stated on.
Sure.
From the planning department. You know, that's why we left the 25 feet. We'd have to relook into it and see if that we would gain more property off that. I mean, I don't see the point in having a 25-foot buffer and a fence. Maybe if we were to remove the buffer and gain more space, then a fence. But that'd be something we'd have to look into further.
Thank you for your answer.
Do we have any other questions for council?
I just wanted to point out, if you look at the staff report in the recommended conditions of approval that Mr. Olson mentioned, condition number 5 does require the proposed RV park to maintain landscape buffers along the subject property's boundary, and that all existing healthy trees within the buffer area shall be preserved. Understory vegetation shall not be cleared. Existing trees shall not be removed unless hazardous or invasive. And additional canopy trees may be planted in the buffer area to achieve the minimum quantity. So I did just want to clarify that, you know, that this is something that is required per the staff's recommended conditions.
All right, I think that answers everything.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have any final comments from staff? No? Board questions of anyone? All right. Now close the public hearing for tab F. Do we have any further board deliberation?
I do have one question for staff and council. So, the conditions of approval, item number 4. The small boat lift, wooden dock, trail to St. Mary's River, shall be constructed and shall remain open and accessible to public without restriction. You know, it strikes me that this development, not really a development, RV park, not sure what all the contributions to the public are, but 4 stands out as, you know, a good thing. At what time would they be required to provide that? Is that by CO permitting?
Right,
It's
so that would
done,
be,
built before they put,
it would be subject to how the construction inspectors work within development services, but it would be required to be shown on the site engineering plan. And then, it would also be, you know, the CO would not be issued until that was deemed to be constructed adequately.
okay, so there's no chance that, again, just to be clear, that they're moving RVs in, accepting money until these facilities and conditions are met?
That's correct. You
Okay.
got that right.
That's, thank you.
I will now entertain a motion for approval or denial of CU 2025-21.
Mr. Chairman, based upon the record, evidence, and testimony received, I find that there is competent and substantial evidence pursuant to Land Development Code, Section 24.03C, Section 28.09, and Section 5.04 A through K, and therefore my motion is to approve CU 2025-021, subject to the criteria outlined by the staff.
Motion made by Board Member Hodges,
Second.
second by Vice Chair Blue. Madam Chair, please call the vote.
Board Member Fendig,
Yes.
Board Member Henson,
Yes.
Board Member Hodges,
Yes.
Board Member Blue,
Yes.
Board Member Morse,
Yes.
Board Member Valenta,
No.
and Chair Erickson.
Yes.
That's 6 ayes and 1 nay by Board Member Valenta.
Thank you very much. Do we have any general public comments? Any further board business? Our next meeting is August the 4th. Everyone have a good night.